Hey guys, Chris here. Today I'm going to talk about a valley that I backpacked into a couple of years ago, solo backpacked. And what I didn't realize was the same valley in 1982, there were 4 hunters that went into this valley late in the year. They were the only ones in there. And there was an experience they had that they knew something did not want them in that valley. We're going to talk about that next. Hey guys, check this out. I just found this grove of cedar trees. These are cedar trees right here, and they get to be really giant. And it's but not only that, look at this structure I found. Some kind of a structure here. Look at that. Somebody built it probably, but look at that. It's all piled up in that one spot right there. Next to this creek. Right here, check that out. And you follow this little creek, and there's a little waterfalls. Right here. And then it works its way up this little stair step. And these tree roots. And then it heads on up into the brush there. I'm looking for a place to tell my scary story before the sun goes down, nonetheless, and I think I found it here. This is wild. Definitely somebody built this, but it is really thick in here. It's going to get dark pretty quickly down here. But yeah, I brought a beer, and I'm going to drop in the creek here. All right, this is my beer for tonight. It is the Rogue Bat Squatch, which is a hazy India Pale Ale. It's just a 12-ounce can. I'm gonna drop that in the creek till I'm ready for it, get it nice and cooled off. But that's gonna be very appropriate for tonight. Alright, quite a forest I found here. This is pretty interesting. Most of the trees around here are ponderosa pine trees on all these ridges. I hiked in quite a ways, and this little side drainage that I'm on is pretty narrow, and there's this creek running through it, and we got these giant cedar trees in just this little grove of them right here. It's pretty cool. And a great place to tell a scary story. So if that's what I'm going to do, I guess I got to pick a scary place, and I think I just did. So anyways, I'm going to be in base camp and the next video, but this one I decided just to do something right around here, and I found this awesome place, and I am going to drink that beer I talked about. There we go. Rogue bat squatch. That is pretty good. So in 2020, 2 years ago, I went solo backpacking into the Pacific Valley of the Sierra Nevada mountains. And that is in Alpine County. And I love Alpine County. I've mentioned this before, but it's the least populated county in California. And I went to this valley. I hiked in on the Bull Run Trailhead is what it's called. And it's called Bull Run Trailhead because there's Bull Run Peak at the end of this fairly long valley. It's about 3.5, 4 mile long valley. Pretty narrow. And then this creek runs right through the middle of it, Pacific Creek. And then in the middle of this valley is this big meadow. Maybe a quarter mile wide and maybe a mile long. So I hiked in from the Bull Run Trailhead, and it's pretty flat, and then I could see the valley, the open meadow in the valley to my left. So I hiked in the forest, crossed the creek, and then I popped out into this valley. I could see the peaks and really get kind of a feel of the whole area. And then I went into the trees and made a camp in there. And I'm going to show you, here's some footage from that actually. But I wanted to camp in the meadow here somewhere, so I'm going to head up towards, a little farther up the valley here, and just a beautiful wild valley. Some great peaks back here. It was a really good trip for me. I really enjoyed it. I got up the next morning and I hiked to the top of Bull Run Peak. Great views all the way around. And I did not realize that in 1982, October of 1982, 4 hunters went in there near Halloween, just about the 31st, and they camped at the Bull Run Trailhead. The road comes in off Highway 4, which is Ebbett's Pass, which goes up and over the Sierra Nevada mountains. 8,736 feet high. It's the highest pass in the Sierra Nevadas. I just love the whole Ebbett's Pass area. Carson Pass and Ebbett's Pass, my 2 favorite areas to hike. Just to explore, just even drive through. And they got their camp set up, and the next day 2 of the guys, Rich and James, decided to get up early and start the deer hunting. So they hiked down the very trail that I went in on. Went into this, I believe it's the same meadow that I camped in. I was on the other side, just inside the trees there. They were getting ready to do their hunt. Going to split up. Rich was going to go up the ridge and James was going to follow the valley, and they were going to kind of meet and see if they could flush out a couple deer. And they're having this conversation next to the tree line in this meadow, and then out of the trees a huge rock flies over the top of both of them. I mean a real huge rock, like this big. This over the top of them and towards the creek, and they could hear it thud and then kind of clank on the rocks next to the creek. And James dropped to the ground. He was a 15-year police officer, so maybe he was just ready, on alert. Things happen, he's got some instincts or something. And then it was dead quiet. They were kind of half hoping, you know, maybe their friends come out of the forest, they hear something, hear somebody's voice. Nothing. They got nothing. They kind of checked it out, went into the woods, looked around. They didn't see anything. And it spooked them. Once they realized there was nobody there and it was dead quiet, the hair on the back of their necks went up. And they were just on full alert. And what that means when that happens is your adrenaline kicks in because of the fear and the stress that you're under, and then your body is in this full alert mode. Just full awareness of your surroundings, and your senses are really kicked up. Kind of like a cat. I mean, it's a little different, but a cat will get fearful and stressed and then they'll arch their back, fur goes up, and it makes them look bigger to a predator. That's why that's kind of a natural response for a cat, and it's something similar for humans. And so they're feeling pretty spooked at this point about this. And they said, why don't we just kind of head back to camp and kind of regroup with our buddies and kind of let them know what's going on, and then just kind of rethink things. And Rich said, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. So they hiked back across the creek, through the trees, found the trail, heading back towards where the trucks were at the trailhead and the campground. The campground was at the trailhead. And I was there at this little campground. It's kind of like a little loop at the end of the road, and it's pretty small. I think there's 6 or 8 sites maybe. And as they're walking down this trail, they hear in the trees to the left of them something like paralleling them, going at the same pace they are, but just inside the trees. And this valley, on this trail, on this stretch of trail, because I was on this trail, it's flat, and then it goes flat towards the valley this way, but on the other side it kind of slopes up, because you're in a valley and the trail is kind of along the edge of the valley. And so they're walking and they're hearing this, and being hunters, and being that James was a police officer, former police officer, he looks back while they're walking to Rich, and he kind of nods and just kind of puts his hand up like this, and then he goes like that, and they both stop at the same time. And whatever it was in the woods stopped as well, but it stopped with like a little extra half step, because it didn't know exactly when they were going to stop. It had no idea. And so it's trying to mimic them, but it was behind. And so they heard some movement after they stopped. And then it's dead quiet. And like whatever it was, kind of didn't want to be known, but it wanted to follow them at the same time. So they're pretty spooked at this point, really spooked. And they're like, yeah, we got to keep going. Let's get out of here. Let's get out of here. And they're walking, and they can hear it over there again, and they're like nodding, like, yep, there it is. Okay, and they just, and it's literally paralleling them. And then out of the trees where they hear the walking, a good-sized round rock comes out of the trees and lands and kind of rolls just to the outside of the trail, just to the side of the trail. And they're like, holy shit, okay. And then they keep going. They're like, okay, let's just keep going, let's just keep going. And about every minute or so, another rock would come out and hit and kind of roll, or just kind of thud, or just roll out from the tree line, just like a big rock would just kind of roll out of the tree line. And they just keep hiking. Let's just keep moving, and they can still hear this thing. And this went on for about 20 minutes. And they didn't start running. They didn't panic, but they were really shaken up by this. And they finally get to where it kind of widens out. It turns in kind of a single lane road, because I think there's trucks that can come in with horses and with horse trailers, because I saw a corral there. They got to the road, and then whatever it was, it seemed to kind of fade out, and then it was quiet, and they just kept walking, and then no more of this activity. They got back to camp. It was late afternoon. And they told their friends what had happened, and told them like everything that had happened. And they were like, wow, okay, all right, well, we're all together, we're good shape here. Night is coming, but we'll be fine. And they noticed that afternoon around camp, because they had been to this area a number of times together hunting before, and they noticed it was really quiet. The forest was quiet. Nothing going on in the forest. No birds. Normally there's like some chipmunks that they would see, and they said even like a pine marten would show up occasionally from the creek and come up and kind of check out their camp, and almost like a little visitor or something. And there was nothing. There was absolutely nothing all afternoon. That whole day, in fact, they noticed there was nothing, even when they were in that big meadow. And it's just a little thing that they kind of noticed, like, wow, that's kind of interesting. Okay. They made dinner, sun went down, had the lantern going. The old Coleman lantern. I love the old Coleman lanterns. And they've kind of finished up their dinner. They had the fire going. It kind of died down a little bit, because it was kind of the day was, you know, the day was fading, so to speak. And just outside of their lantern light, where it was pitch black and the light couldn't shine that far, they heard just a little bit of movement in the brush, in the trees, towards the creek side. And then they heard this tree crashing down through the woods. Just a super huge crash in the forest. And there was no wind, zero wind at all. And they're like, oh my gosh, okay. There's some weird stuff going on around here. It really spooked them. All four of them were really spooked by this. And they said, yeah, it could have been a natural occurrence. You know, a tree does fall in the forest, and if nobody's around to hear it, or whatever the phrase is. But they all heard it, and they all decided, at that moment, they all kind of said, something or someone does not want us in this valley tonight. And so they decided, you know what? None of us are going to get any sleep with all that's happened today. It's just, who knows what happened with this tree or whatever. But with all that had happened, why don't we just call it a trip and let's pack up and let's get out of here. And it was like after 10 o'clock at night. And this was 4 hunters in a public campground with guns. And they were like, yeah, let's get out of here. They were the only ones in this valley. Like I said, it was late fall, and they were the only ones in the valley. There was no other cars. They saw nobody else, so they knew they were the only ones there. So they said, yeah, let's get out of here. Let's leave. When you're out solo backpacking, and I do a lot of solo backpacking, it's really important to keep a positive mindset and stay productive, especially at night, because if you hear one thing that just doesn't sound right, it can spook you, and then all of a sudden now your mind can kind of start running away from you, and you don't want to do that when you're by yourself. And when I was in this Pacific Valley, I was solo backpacking. I did not have any guns. There wasn't 4 of us. Didn't have any trucks, and I was keeping a good positive mindset. And I knew I needed to, but just in the back of my head, I'm thinking, if I hear one thing that I don't like, one thing that doesn't sound right, it makes it really hard to enjoy the night. So, like I said, I stay really productive. I like, okay, I'm gonna get some more firewood cut up, keep the fire going. I'm gonna make some dinner, read a book. I do my videos, obviously, but I remember at one point during that night, I had to go down to the creek to wash some dishes. I had my my frying pan, and pitch black. Fire was up by the tent, and I said, well, let's just go. Let's kind of get ready and let's just go and head down to the creek. Just doing a little bit of cleanup on the frying pan. There wasn't much to clean up, but I'm down at the creek here. So I got some rocks and sand in there. That's going to really clean it up. Added a little bit of all-natural detergent. Just a little bit of dish detergent. I'll clean that up. Got a fresh one, but that should do it. There we go. Looking good, looking good. And I'm down there doing the dishes. I put some sand and a little bit of gravel. I was just kind of cleaning a little bit of extra. I think I had the potatoes and the steak. And just at that moment, I was feeling some vulnerability around me. Nothing happened. Nothing happened. But I knew that if I got a little freaked out, if I let my mind kind of run from me and not stay kind of focused and productive and positive, I would have had a really bad night, you know, when you start going, what was that? What was that? And you don't want to do that. So I'm just saying from experience, and yeah, you got to just stay positive. So anyways, just wanted to mention that. But really interesting story about this Pacific Valley, I thought. And yeah, I'm really having fun with this. I love this forest that I'm in. I think I want to come back here, maybe even put the tent up over here some night. I'm going to be doing my base camp, but I'm going to be, it's that time of year, so I'm going to be getting out doing these videos and stuff, so it's going to be a lot of fun. So, hey, if you guys like hiking and backpacking and somebody telling you stories about strange, unexplained, and things that go bump in the night, that kind of stuff, please like, subscribe, and comment. I read all my comments and I answer most of them, so I would really appreciate that if you guys could do that. But thank you for watching. I think I'm going to do a little bit more exploring, but the sun is dropping really fast. I got quite a hike to do to get out of here, and so I better get hitting the trail here. So but thanks for watching. We'll see you next time, and as always, keep hiking.